Welcome to the program. You can join us also on all our social media platforms at 3FM927 as we get interactive. Beginning from here, the Medical Laboratory Professional Workers Union have picketed at the Korle Teaching Hospital after laying down their tools following the removal of the head of laboratory services at the Korle Teaching Hospital. The union is accusing management of the hospital of breaching agreements reached at a high-level stakeholder meeting convened by the Ministry of Health on February 3, 2026. We'll be touching base with our Labour Affairs correspondent, Daniel Opoku, who will join us from the Korle Teaching Hospital to tell us more about this latest action taken by the Medical Laboratory Professional Workers Union and their picket, what has been the levels of engagement from government since they began the industrial action and the clash with the doctors there. In the meantime, let's do some other stories this afternoon as the former Chief Executive Officer of the National Food Buffer Stock Company, Hanan Abdul Wahab, and his wife are still in the custody of IOCO. The two were rearrested after the Attorney General withdrew all charges against them, giving them a short-lived freedom before they were picked up on the court's premises. We'll bring you a wrap of what has been happening since the incident started and the latest reaction from the Economic and Organized Crime Office, as well as the various reactions that have come from lawyers of Abdul, Hanan, and his wife. Key amongst them is Godfred Dame, who is a former Attorney General of the Republic. But the Minority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, says the Economic and Organized Crime Office is engaging in illegal arrests and harassment of citizens and desperately seeking to save face in the rearrest of former NAFCO Chief Executive and his wife. In a statement, the Afutu lawmaker says he's still in shock and struggles to understand why IOCO undertook that action after the Attorney General withdrew all charges against the two. According to him, the rearrest of Abdul Wahab, Hanan, and his wife flies in the face of law and weakens democracy, adding that it is fruitless attempt to give credibility to government's Operation Recover All Loot, which he says has failed. Afenyo-Markin has called on IOCO and the Attorney General to release the two immediately. And this is a story that will be staying on, bringing you details in the subsequent bulletins. Let's now take a listen to Godfred Dame after his client was rearrested yesterday.
They have been denied access to counsel. I have junior colleagues of mine who have been sitting at IOCO since about 11 o'clock. They have not been given access to them. They have not been given access to the former chief executive of Buffer Stock. I mean, what kind of practice is that? They have been sitting at IOCO since 11 o'clock. They have not had access to their clients. They are junior colleagues of mine, and they are still sitting there. Apparently, Hanan even fell ill in the course of all the harassment and was rushed to the hospital and brought back to IOCO office. He's still in the custody of IOCO at the IOCO office. He's not been given access to his lawyers. Yeah, so trying to negotiate is being freed from the custody of IOCO.
Godfred Dame is former Attorney General and lawyer for Abdul Hanan and his wife, the former Buffer Stock CEO there. We'll get back to the story, but let's speak with my colleague Daniel Opoku, who now is at the Korle Teaching Hospital, and this is in relation to the Medical Laboratory Professional Workers Union picketing at the hospital after laying down their tools following the removal of the head of laboratory services at the Korle Teaching Hospital. The union, they're accusing the management of the hospital of breaching agreements reached at a high-level stakeholder meeting convened by the Ministry of Health on February 3, 2025. Daniel is joining us. Daniel, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon to you. Tell us more about this action by the lab scientists.
Right, so good. So that's quite interesting because ideally, the statement from the lab scientists in the strike level picketing somewhere from next week. But just this morning, when we go to Korle, they have decided to lay down their tools. And a lot of their members are also red armbands with the decision, with the declaration that because they believe the management has illegally removed their former boss, who is in charge or who was initially the head of the central lab. He has been removed. For that reason, they are saying that if the man is not, then obviously they are not going to continue with their lab work, and they are not going. The current happenings on Korle, the hospital as I speak to currently.
I see. Danny, if you could reposition yourself, but while at that, what are the apart from these concerns they have, are they making any other specific demands?
Right. So they are also, as yesterday they were in a meeting with the Ministry of Health, and it was shared by the Chief Director. And after the meeting, the director, according to the lab science, the Chief Director gave a directive that the status quo should remain. The current head of the lab, of the central lab, should be kept. Dr. Omari should be at host. Further discussions are held so that whether they will realize whether there's a need to remove him or not. At the meeting, the lab scientists are extremely sad that when they came out of the meeting, the man has been removed, and now they don't have a head. Now their work has come to a standstill, and currently they want the management to reinstate him, or else they are not going to work. That's what they're asking for. It's a problem about power play, because you realize that when you enter the lab, there are two sections. You have the lab scientists, that's also a professional allied workers, also have the lab physicians. The lab physicians are the medical doctors. The two of them work collaboratively, but interestingly, normally you have the lab physicians, the medical doctors who are in charge or who head the lab. For that has created a problem, because the lab scientists of the view that they are also raising to a certain level that they can take charge of the management of the lab. That's a problem now. So management must come in to get the issues addressed. Or from tomorrow, there's a possibility that they will shut the entire lab system at Korle down.
I see. But as we speak, how has their action affected services?
Right. So some patients that I spoke with, a man I spoke with was directed to come for a lab result. That when he entered the premises, he encountered the strike and the picketing, and because they are not working, the man is so sad that his wife is still at the hospital, that he doesn't know what to do. Another woman who was complaining that she was also coming for her lab result. She has been told that they are not working. Now she has to go back. That is the problem now. So management, from the side of management, they are yet to speak, because a short while ago I was speaking with some of them. They said they are yet, and they will go ahead to engage with the lab scientists and see whether they will be able to rescind their decision. Because initially they had given 72 hours, and 72 hours expires tomorrow. So if the management fails to address the problem by close of day today and wait till tomorrow, then they are likely to have a problem within the health sector where patients will be asked to go to the central lab and there will not be any lab scientists to take care of them.
Daniel Opoku, thank you so much for that report. Daniel Opoku is a Labour Affairs correspondent, and certainly a subject that we'll be keeping an eye on and bringing you details in subsequent bulletins. This is still the Midday News on 3FM 92.7, also live on all our social media platforms at 3FM 927. To some other stories this afternoon, and the Ghana National Association of Teachers Wassa West District is demanding justice following what it describes as a barbaric and inhumane assault on educators by personnel from the 2nd Infantry Battalion of the Ghana Armed Forces based at Apremdo in Takrady. The incident occurred at Adewas Basic School in the early hours of Thursday, April 30, and has left 3 teachers and the husband of a female teacher with severe physical and psychological trauma. My colleague Rama Smith, she put together this report.
Will not soon forget. It all began on Tuesday, April 28, when soldiers from the 2BN Apremdo, acting on behalf of the Ghana Rubber Estate Limited GREL, attempted to flush out illegal miners or galamseyers from a nearby rubber plantation. That initial confrontation set the stage for a dawn raid 2 days later that the residents of Adeowoso will not soon forget.
Unknowing to the residents of Adeowoso, the military men besieged the town in the early hours of Thursday, April 30th, 2026, and subjected the residents, especially the males, to severe beatings and other forms of molestation. Unfortunately, the molestation was extended to 3 teachers of Adeowoso MA Basic School, including the head teacher and the husband of one of the female teachers in the school, who had gone there to visit his wife. Although the teachers did all that they could to let the men know that they were not part of the galamseyers and that they were teachers by even showing their NAT membership identity cards to them. The men in uniform ignored it and molested the 3 teachers and the husband of one of the female teachers.
Despite identifying themselves and presenting their NAT membership cards, the teachers say their pleas fell on deaf ears. The soldiers allegedly ordered the educators to lie face down on the ground before whipping them repeatedly. One teacher recounts being told, "You teachers should know better and advise the town folks."
So we are sending this signal to the whole public that you cannot touch a teacher and go scot-free. And we are sending the information to those who perpetrated this crime and the police that any attempt to shelve this or any attempt to cover up for this crime will resist fiercely with our blood. We are also telling the people, whoever matters, that they shouldn't even try to intimidate the teachers that were involved. We will not take it from them. We are giving them 2 weeks for the police to tell us who are the people who did that thing. And then they should also bring the people to book. All we want is that justice must prevail.
NAT has officially filed a criminal complaint at the Abra police station and is now issuing a 14-day ultimatum. Specifically, the association is calling for a full-scale investigation involving the Minister for Defense and the Chief of Army Staff to identify and prosecute the perpetrators. They are also demanding a safer working environment before teachers return to the classroom.
Irama Smith with that report. Now, the Outdoor Advertisers Association, they have petitioned government to immediately suspend the ongoing demolishing of advertising signage mounted on road medians, warning of serious economic and legal consequences for industry players. In a strongly worded appeal addressed to the office of the President, the Ministry of Roads and Highways and the Ministry of Local Government, the association described the exercise as abrupt and uncertain. It says the demolition being carried out by the National Road Safety Authority and local authorities is already affecting businesses. The group argues that many of its members operate legally under permits issued by municipal assemblies and have met all tax and regulatory obligations. It warns that the exercise could undermine investor confidence and expose companies to legal risk due to existing contractual commitments. The National Road Safety Authority, however, maintains that some of these signages pose safety threats to motorists and contribute to road accidents, hence the decision to remove them. But the Outdoor Advertisers Association disagrees. It insists that signage is not a primary cause of accidents, pointing instead to driver indiscipline, excessive speeding, and mechanical faults as the leading factors. Let's bring in Carl Entry. He is an executive member of the Outdoor Advertisers Association. Carl, good afternoon to you. The National Road Safety Authority says these signages, they pose safety risk, and you hold a different view. Don't you think there's a link somewhere?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this matter. We have an opposing view to this statement by the Rules and National Authority. In fact, the exercise is something that began some months ago, and we've constantly try to engage the authority to explain things to them, because this business for over 20 years and it's been going on and all that. So if it is something that is really posing a threat or causing an accident, I think that by now it would have been a topical issue in the country. We all know how sensitive the galamsey issues are and how virtually every single individual in this country is taken seriously, how devastating or how risky these galamsey issues are. So it became a topical issue in this country. We are all aware that this advertising business has been going on over years. Mm-hmm. It's just recent times that the rules and safety think that it is the only thing that is causing accident in this country. And that is where we have a problem with. And so we constantly try to engage the Director General of rules and safety and the local government to ensure an engagement. We are actually not opposed to activity, but what we are saying is that it is a wrong impression that the median signages are actually the one causing accident in this country.
But you will agree that they may contribute to accidents, don't you think so?
They are not, and to some extent, everyone doing advertising will tell you that even the medians, to some extent, even prevent car from accident. There are occasions where there's the serious brake failure. It is these medians in the road that even prevent accidents happening. There are a couple of times that some of us have to go and change our boards and all that because there was a serious accident that was saved by these medians. It is not entirely true.
I see. Now, critics say that the industry is not adequately regulated, adequately self-regulated. So why should authorities trust compliance will improve if the demolition is halted? Granted that there is some element of truth in the fact that not all signages there are legally mounted.
All right, so that is why we are calling for a stakeholder engagement. Whatever it is, for instance, there was a call on the abolition of Okada in this country, and this December last year, 2025, the bill was passed. We all know how dangerous Okada are, but what we are saying is the consultation. If you think that it is causing a risk, we are calling for an engagement for us to sit down and say that, look, there is a standard that we can come out together and then regulate our activities. If we think that something is posing a risk, but it's generating revenue to the assembly, it is causing people economic benefit. We are using it to explore businesses branding.
Right.
All that. And so if we are doing all these things to help expand the economy, and we think that there's a problem with some sector, it has to do with regulations. That's why we're asking that. So, look, they should engage us. Give us a policy.
Right.
Give us regulations that, look, this is what we are doing. We are not intending to remove the board or to destroy the advertising business.
We understand. We understand that. But what you're calling for regulation instead of removal. My question then, briefly, is that what specific standards should be introduced to ensure signage does not obstruct visibility or compromise safety? What kinds of regulations are you proposing, briefly?
Yeah, so briefly, what most of the concerns raised by the authority board is how close-knit some of the boards are. Okay. And so we are pushing that, okay, so if there's a problem that is posing a risk to the society, come up with dimensional regulation that, look, if you look at the Ghana Standard Authority, there's a dimension instrument regulate distance or how just regulate dimension of billboards. So the same way we is the policy. If you put it here, it should have about 20 meters or 30 meters along this. Give us regulation to regulate our activity.
And finally, if government identifies certain locations as high-risk areas, are your members willing and prepared to remove or relocate those structures? And within what time frame?
If government intention is not entirely to remove every median in the country, but saying
some,
that this particular area is posing a risk, and so we want to be considerate, we are on board.
We
just want to call for engagement.
Thank you
so
much.
We are just playing with the government. We are helping the economy. We are doing what we are employing people. We have people we employ.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Korle Ntwi is an executive member of the Outdoor Advertisers Association speaking with us there. To some other stories this afternoon, and the Ministry of Health has attributed the prolonged delay in operationalizing the Weija Children's Hospital to procurement irregularities, funding challenges, and unresolved contractual disputes, despite the facility being physically completed. In a statement, the ministry said the project encountered setbacks after the World Bank flagged, quote-unquote, misprocurement, including claims that some medical equipment costs were inflated by up to 11 times their actual value. The ministry noted that the development led to funding crisis, with the World Bank declining to settle outstanding payments on the project. It further disclosed that attempts to commissioning the hospital have been stalled by a dispute with a contractor who has reportedly denied government access to the facility until all contractual issues are resolved. The explanation follows protests by residents of Weija who took to the streets on May 5, demanding the immediate opening of the hospital to address gaps in pediatric healthcare. And the ministry says it is engaging stakeholders to resolve the impasse and has appealed for calm, stressing the importance of the 120-bed facility in improving specialized healthcare delivery for children. Away from that, the Volta Regional Minister James Gunu has strongly condemned assault on firefighters across the country and the destruction of firefighting equipment following recent attacks on personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service. At this year's Firefighters Day event in Hull, the minister described such attacks as unacceptable, noting that it has severe consequences not only on personnel but also on public safety. Faisal Abdul-Jisu has more in this report.
Firefighters across the globe play a crucial role in ensuring public safety and rescues during disasters such as fire incidents and floods. Despite this critical role, personnel in recent times have come under public attacks and interference in line of duty, jeopardizing their lives and safety.
The public, not all, but you could realize that it's a mobilized one, attempts to obstruct. Sometimes you are not a trained person. When we are running our hoses, you see them, someone believes he's a macho man, he can hold it better, and creating all manner of confusion at fire ground. So sometimes we limit people going closer to the incident scene, whether it is your property in fire or not.
The Volta Regional Minister, who was speaking on the theme, an attack on firefighters and equipment is an attack on public safety and assault and protect the firefighter, described the situation as unacceptable and a threat to public order.
When the firefighter is attacked, obstructed, or denied the space to work, the consequence is not borne by the firefighter alone. It is the entire community that is put at risk when fire tenders are damaged, delayed, or denied access. It is public safety that suffers. Let me therefore state, without ambiguity, an assault on a firefighter is unacceptable. An attack on fire service personnel, vehicle, or equipment is a direct threat to life, security, and public order.
As a day set aside to celebrate the heroic efforts of firefighters, the Volta Regional Command took the opportunity to remember some of their compatriots who lost their lives in line of duty.
My colleague Faisal Abdul-Idris with that report there. Now, a growing weed invasion is threatening rice production in Ghana, raising concerns among farmers and agricultural experts. But researchers from the Crops Research Institute and COPI are stepping in with targeted solutions to control the spread and protect yield. Ibrahim Ubakar has more in this report.
Rice farmers, particularly within irrigated schemes like the Weija, are facing a new challenge of aggressive and difficult to control weeds. Experts say climate change and increased trade have contributed to the introduction of these species into local farming systems.
In fact, weed management costs a lot in rice production, and apart from the cost involved, the farmers are spending a lot of time, energy in removing weeds. Hand picking of the weeds alone could take about 3 days to 3 weeks before farmers will be able to complete that.
Farmers spend up to 2,000 cedis per hectare, while manual weeding alone can take weeks to complete. To tackle the problem, researchers at the Crop Research Institute are conducting field trials to identify the most effective weed control methods suited to local conditions.
Weeds are unique in certain places. It's affected by the environment and all that. So whatever applies in Ashanti region, we cannot apply here. And again, to here is an irrigated field. So the weeds of irrigated fields are different from the weeds of the rain-fed fields.
My colleague Ibrahim Abubakar with that report. Now, a coalition of youth groups and concerned citizens in the Upper West region have issued a strong warning to the government, threatening to take control of the Upper West Regional Airport if work on the long-delayed Bole-Sola-Wa road does not commence immediately. The group, in a petition addressed to the Ministry of Road and Highways, expressed deep frustration over what they describe as government inaction on the critical 195-kilometer stretch. Upper West Regional Correspondent Ibrahim Wangara, he put together this report.
Despite the sword cutting in November 2025 by President John Dramani Mahama under the government Big Push project, work was expected to start in earnest by the contractor. However, according to the angry youth, less than 1% of work has been completed on the Sola-Wa section more than a year after the contract was awarded, adding that the deplorable condition of the road, characterized by deep potholes, heavy dust, and severe corrugation, has turned what should be a vital economic corridor linking Upper West to the Bono East and Savannah regions into what they call an endurance trial for commuters and traders.
We therefore state without ambiguity the following. 1. Immediate and visible commencement of full reconstruction works on the Wenchi-Bole-Wa-Sola road, not token gestures or clearing of road shoulders. 2. Mr. Maripoma Enterprise Limited must either begin real work immediately or be removed from the project without delay. 3. A clear enforceable commitment to the project which will meet the technical standards and timelines publicly promised by His Excellency the President. And then 4, a clear commitment to ensuring that the local content requirement is adhered to.
The group has given the government a 2-week ultimatum to demonstrate concrete and verifiable action on the project. Failure to do so, they warn, will trigger sustained and disruptive protests.
If this ultimatum is ignored, the demonstration that will follow will be disruptive, sustained, and impossible to ignore. We will take control of our narrative and, if necessary, our infrastructure, including the Upper West Regional Airport. Mr. Minister, please act decisively.
Meanwhile, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Govins Abuja, who is in the region alongside his entourage to inspect ongoing road projects, assured the group of the government commitment.
And that's how we draw the curtains on this afternoon's edition of the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Noble Crosby Annan. There's more news on our website, 3news.com. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up this afternoon, Ghana to partner African countries to test new continental digital trade system.
We'll focus on mobile money, interoperability, mutual recognition, digital identity for cross-border KYC, and harmonize electronic invoicing.
Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana governor calls for next phase of digital finance focused on real value.
A recent World Bank report indicates that approximately 49% of adults in sub-Saharan Africa, they now have access to digital financial accounts.
Much later in this bulletin, the Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy questions the International Monetary Fund's oversight and institutional accountability amid the Bank of Ghana's 2025 losses.
Do IMF supported stabilization programs typically result in significant central bank losses? If so, under what conditions?
Details of our headlines and other stories, please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're going to our first story now, where Ghana is set to work with other African countries to pilot a new digital trade corridor aimed at making cross-border transactions faster and more efficient. Speaking at the 3I Africa Summit 2026 in Accra, the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, says the initiative will focus on improving mobile money interoperability, digital identity verification, and electronic invoicing to ease trade across the continent and strengthen Africa's growing digital space.
Test pilots, which will be implemented, tested and measured, will focus on mobile money interoperability, mutual recognition of digital identity for cross-border KYC, and harmonize electronic invoicing. The systems we build will determine whether Africa participates in the global digital economy on her own terms or operates within frameworks defined elsewhere. And integration will be achieved through systems that work consistently across borders and at scale. The work before us.
Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman there. Now, the Bank of Ghana, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, has underscored the need to move beyond expanding access to digital finance, stressing that the next phase of growth must focus on delivering real value through services such as digital credit, cross-border financial solution, and support for small businesses. Now, addressing the 3I Africa Summit 2026, he noted that while progress has been made in widening financial inclusion, key challenges now lie in fragmentation, high cost, and regulatory gaps.
A recent World Bank report indicates that approximately 49% of adults in sub-Saharan Africa, they now have access to digital financial accounts. Africa is not starting from zero, therefore. We are starting from momentum. So this is progress, but it also signals a transition. Access has expanded indeed. The task now is to make it count. So ladies and gentlemen, this progress points to an important shift. The next phase of digital finance will not be defined by payments alone. Across our markets, the basic payment infrastructure is increasingly in place. The opportunity now lies in building the next layer of value.
And you heard the voice of the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Interpayment and Settlement Part says Ghana has highlighted Ghana's move to align its payment system with global standards as a strategic step towards cross-border transactions.
As the industry evolves, we recognize that sustaining this progress will require deeper collaboration and leadership guided by innovation. And this is why GIPS is taking deliberate steps to strengthen our infrastructure and support the ecosystem, working closely with our partners to advance Ghana's cash-light agenda. And in this regard, we are migrating Ghana's national payments infrastructure to the ISO 20022 Global Messaging Standard. This migration is strategic, repositioning us for the future. And by adopting this standard, Ghana's payment systems will speak the same language as the world's leading financial infrastructure and market, enabling richer transaction data and faster settlement. With the passage of the Virtual Asset Service Providers Act, GIPS is looking to collaborate with virtual asset providers to ensure we provide the required shared infrastructure that allows for innovation, growth, and recreation.
Finally, before we go, the Executive Director for the Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy, Professor Isaac Boedi, has raised a challenge to both the Bank of Ghana and the International Monetary Fund, questioning whether the global lender is complicit in the central bank's 2025 financial loss, especially but he's demanding a transparent audit of the policy choices made under the IMF's watch to determine if these staggering deficits were a preventable consequence of the current stabilization program.
The BOG's recently released 2025 financial statement revealed an operating loss of 34.9 billion cedis, inclusive of other comprehensive income, from the 9.49 billion cedis loss recorded in 2024. Professor Boedi is challenging the central bank's narrative that these losses are simply the cost of maintaining economic stability. He expressed particular concern over what he termed a shift from denial to justification. With Ghana currently under a $3 billion IMF-supported program, Professor Boedi is demanding clarity on the fund's level of oversight. He questioned whether the IMF merely observed these losses, endorsed the policy choices that led to them, or raised private concerns that were never shared with the Ghanaian public. The Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy posed 4 critical questions to the authorities.
Do IMF-supported stabilization programs typically result in significant central bank losses? If so, under what conditions are such losses considered acceptable? What specific factors led to Ghana's 2025 losses, particularly in a year without a major crisis such as COVID-19 or the banking sector cleanup? What accountability mechanism exists when central bank policy decisions result in substantial financial losses?
The think tank noted that without clear, honest answers, the very economic stability government seeks to defend could become unsustainable.
In the coming days, a letter will be forwarded to IMF, and in the interest of oversight and accountability, which will naturally rise, we think it's important that IMF also have a closer look to our books, because we think that as a think tank, we try to shape and help administration.
That will be all for Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more news, please check our website at 3news.com. I am Enyuna Paliga. Stay with us.